So I'm going to show you my Battle Pass predictions for this year's Compendium and show you the thought process behind some of these picks for predictions, and a lot of it is based off of statistics I've seen from different websites such as Open Dota, Dota Buff, Wikipedia, and also from general knowledge that I have from playing Dota, following the pro scene. And the pro scene is quite different to what you would have in your own matches, and there's just various things to understand that are trends that even happen during the international. So one of the things that's generally a big trend is that there's one hero that every team ends up picking, and it's sometimes not banned because of the fact that it has a slightly positive win rate, but teams are very capable of playing against it and countering it easily. And Crystal Maiden kind of falls into that area where she's a really good hero right now. She got a minor nerf last patch. I made a video last week explaining why Crystal Maiden is so strong, but I really feel that she is going to be the most picked hero. A lot of people are saying it could be even Io, and even in some cases Trained Protector. And the reason why Trained Protector might become one of the most picked, and I think he might even be second or third most picked hero, is because of the fact that players won't ban this hero. They're not scared about him, and he's usually one of these heroes that's passive that wins the game. And it's actually, if you understand the hero, and especially a lot of higher skilled players, even 5k plus players, have a very easy time of understanding how to counter Treant. He's a very easy hero to play and can fit into drafts even where players haven't played him before. But if we look at the most banned hero, it's likely going to be a core hero, just for the fact that teams don't want to play against a hero that gets a lot of farm or gets a lot very far ahead. And Bloodseeker kind of falls into this area. There's other heroes like Io, which obviously teams don't want to play against. You also have to take into consideration it's not going to be a hero that the top teams are going to play as well is going to get banned a lot. And this is just hard to play against and is kind of like a nuisance more than anything. Again, this could be Io, it could be Husker, and there's some heroes as well that could be there. Maybe Pudge might get banned a lot, but I think the teams are willing to play against Pudge as well because they feel like they can counter it, similar to Crystal Maiden. But when we look at the highest win rate hero, it's typically a hero that's played for about 5 or 6 games and probably only loses one match or loses 0 matches. And Broodmother falls into this place of where she's picked last, and she's picked very situational in where the draft heavily favors her. So this is why I picked her here. It could be Husker, it could be Meepo, but who knows, will there even be a full 5 Meepo games? You can see down here I went with the highest XPM average for Meepo, and why I went with this is because Meepo is this hero that sometimes gets so far ahead, and a lot of your experience at the moment is even getting kills and even Roshan and snowballing really far ahead. And when Meepo does really well, the other thing you need to notice is that he can take towers very quickly and the whole game finishes quickly. And one of the things that in your matches that you might notice is that you might have to take down these other little towers in the base, the tier 4s, destroy the ancient, maybe even go back and kill the shrines. Meepo will not have to take into account of this because of the fact that these extra little tedious things you have to do at the end of the match, a lot of the time pro teams are just going to GG out. They don't want to play the end. And this is an extra saving of maybe 5 or 7 minutes at the end of the match, just doing these small tedious building, destroying, and the kills later in the game when you're really far ahead on say a hero like Meepo. The experience that you get for kills is very little, so overall it makes Meepo in general, just the structure of the hero with his snowballing, will have a higher XPM per minute in comparison to some other heroes. But if we look at Ursa, I picked him twice here, and this is kind of like a safe pick because of the fact that Ursa is one of these heroes that's going to be picked an enormous amount as a carry in this patch and potentially even be played as a mid hero as well. So you could just guess this hero here, but again, this is just a hero that's very popular at the moment, very strong and hard to deal with. However, if we look at a hero like Morphling, he's a hero that has the very low deaths if picked in the right games, and I feel like the hero is strong, but he might be picked a lot. If he's not that popular, he'll actually have the lowest death average because of the fact that teams will only pick him, hopefully only pick him in matches where he's situationally strong. And if you pick Morphling in the right matches, the enemy team don't have heroes naturally that can just kill Morphling easily, and you can just keep morphing. And this hero is a very high skill hero in comparison to what he was maybe a year ago, and it's mainly the changes to his ultimate, which means that he's very oriented around high skill, hard to kill, and he'll definitely be played more than 5 games. Highest assists I went with Zeus, and there's other stuff like last hits, which can, like the highest last hits average and most last hits in a game, they could really be any hero. And it's weird, like I've seen Templar Assassin being in these cases. It's sometimes just these matches that have like stalemates or heroes that are orientated very heavily around farming. So Medusa and Anti-Mage are pretty much like that. Let's go into teams, and teams is one of the ones that's generally a good place if you want to get battle points for winning, because of the fact that you only have a few choices. I think, is there like 20 teams this international? So it's interesting one of where if you want to look at which team will actually win, we don't have the brackets yet and this isn't available, so I'll be doing that like during the week or whenever it comes up. Maybe it'll be next week or when they will have this open for everyone. So that's another good way of getting a few points. Sometimes it can be hard to predict as well. But if we look here at the teams, the reason why I picked LGD is because if you look every year, there tends to be this trend of where the top 3 or 4 teams going into the tournament ends up winning. In some cases like Wings, where the complete underdog team just wins it all. And there's usually a lot of upsets throughout like the brackets, which makes the bracket predictions quite difficult. But if we look at the number 1 team, the team that always ends up winning, a lot of the time actually is the favorites. And there's also this kind of like conspiracy of where the Chinese teams win every second year. TI6 was Wings, and TI4 was Newbie. So, and was it like IG won, Invictus Gaming won TI2. So it's this thing, at every even number it's a Chinese team. So maybe that will continue this year, who knows. I just went with like LGD because they are one of these top 3 or 4 teams, Liquid, Virtus Pro, Newbie and LGD. I don't know, maybe Newbie might not be in that list, but we'll see anyway. Going into TI, there's anything can really happen. But generally what's a good idea when you're doing the team predictions is not to pick every single one to be the same team and to mix it up a bit, because anything again can happen and teams can get knocked out very early on and you won't get a good chance at this. Stuff like the most kills in a game, the highest kill average, statistics like these, the more matches a team plays, and as well if it's a team that has a very good chance of winning, they're going to get a lot more kills in a game in general. So this was just kind of a safe pick to pick one of these top 3 teams. I would say would be a good choice here, so I went with Virtus Pro. But a lot of these are kind of like just guesses, but some of these I really want to highlight. If you want like these 2 for Fnatic, the highest game length average and the longest game, these 2 are ones that I think that are probably my best predictions, because if you look at any of the statistics over the past like few internationals or even almost every tournament, any team that Eternal Envy's on, they always have the longest games and the longest game average, and he's playing for Fnatic at the moment, so that's a really good choice to pick up right now. Whereas if we look at the most different heroes, last year Team Liquid, they had Miracle, who played a different hero every single match in the main stage. I think it was like 17 or 19 different heroes. He didn't play the same hero twice, which is actually like crazy, and he's super flexible on the heroes, and he's still doing it up until like the past 3 to 6 months. He's pretty much only played the same hero maybe 2 or 3 times at most, which is actually like very amazing like skill how he can be flexible across different heroes. But the problem is that the rest of his team a lot of the time ended up being quite static at last year's TI, and they potentially might do the same thing this year. But with Team Secret, what's very different about them is that a lot of their players are flexible and they're playing all these different heroes, and they have a lot of different strategies in place as well, and they have the most, like statistically have the most different heroes played over the past 3 months, I think it was, or 6 months. They've played like 75 different heroes in the past 3 months, which is a lot of heroes, and it's likely to continue into TI. And if we look at Miracle of what he's been doing recently in his pub, I think not even his pub games, but his like pro games, he's still only been playing the same heroes again and again. So when we look at players that play the most different heroes, I went with him. But the player predictions is one that's quite difficult. There's 5 players per team and literally 5 different predictions, so you're likely to get like most of these, if not all of them, wrong. And one of the things that is generally a bad idea is to pick the same player across all of them, or to pick something like your favorite player. In some cases, like what I used to do was, oh look, who's going to get the highest GPM? I'm going to pick Arteezy because he's like the one, like the player you know the most. And sometimes the favorites, like the people who you know the most, are not necessarily the best ones for predictions. In some cases, if you look at this prediction in particular with Raven, who plays for TNC, the player with the lowest state average, I picked him because of the fact that a lot of the time they run this kind of like 4 protect 1 strategy, where they heavily protect Raven from dying a lot, and they play around this, like playing around our carry, which is like played by Raven, whereas it's kind of like the opposite way around. If you look at Fnatic, they actually let their carry die a lot, and Eternal Envy like dies an awful lot, who I think he's playing carry anyway, and Abed is playing on mid lane, which makes sense in their draft. They might mix it up in a couple of matches. And again, like, it's to understand that not every team is going to play in like position 1 or position 2, and the mid and carry might swap around roles at any time. And it's just in general, if you know something in particular about a team, like even stuff like the highest GPM average, and understanding that it'll base a lot about the strategy of the team and not just the individual player. So going on to the tournament, there's a lot of statistics here as well that are kind of like 50-50, or where you could either pick 50 to 54 heroes or 40 to 49. You really have like a choice between like really 2 options, similar here with the shortest game time, and you can really pick either one. But in the case of the shortest game of the tournament, I think that it'll be longer than 15 minutes, just because of the fact that the death ball, even though we saw OpenAI recently win with the death ball strategy, I don't think it's very strong right now, and it's highly risky, just for the fact that they nerfed Tower Gold, and it's relatively hard to execute as well. And we won't see these very quick games, and if we do, it'll be during the group stage. Once we get past the group stage, you'll pretty much know if there's going to be a match shorter than 50 minutes, because a lot of the time it is these early GG calls. But with the number of heroes picked, we have 101 plus, and I think that this is almost like inevitable going to happen. It happened last year, and it didn't happen the previous years, where it was like 91 to 100 and it was less heroes, and it's getting more and more heroes every time. But what's really interesting about the current meta, a lot of heroes are very situational picks and will always end up just getting picked up. Even these really weak heroes, there's about 3 to 5 heroes that I think that shouldn't be picked by any team, but because they just have such a terrible win rate and they're not like even situationally that strong. But at the same time, there's maybe about 15 or 20 heroes, I would say not even 20, like 15 or 10 heroes that won't get banned, just for the fact that like teams won't be scared against them, and they can feel like they can counter them. I think there's like 112 heroes that you can pick from at the moment in like competitive mode, or 113, I can't remember the exact number. But again, like this is kind of a good enough prediction here for the bans, and the bans will definitely be lower than the number of picks. So if we look at the most combined total kills, one of the things that take into consideration is your own matches. You always will die, like yourself, your teammates, your enemy will die more in comparison to pro games. Pro games players are very critical about the amount of times they die, and even with this meta in particular, we're probably going to see more kills at this TI in comparison to any other TI, and every match will have more kills on average, which kind of fuels into this prediction of 36 plus assists, which is almost inevitably going to happen as well. I think that that's something that you really want to do. I've seen way more matches with like 40 plus assists in my own games, and I'm pretty sure it's falling like into a similar category with pro games as well. But with the total amount of combined kills, you don't want to go too high, especially if like the fact that you've probably experienced it yourself, of where your team has 50 plus kills, the enemy has 50 plus kills, but a lot of the time it'll be hard to predict what exactly amount of kills that will be done. But as well, with the most kills by a hero in a game, I went for 26 plus. It might be 23 to 25. It's going to be pretty high. and I think that the most kills that was ever in a game was something like 29 or something like that. Maybe it was 36. I can't remember the exact number. I was looking at it earlier, but I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's pretty high, and it's likely to be 26 plus again, or maybe 23 to 25. We don't really know what's going to happen, and all it takes is one really long match to like throw this statistic off completely. And even the most deaths, as I mentioned, players are going to be quite critical of deaths. The most deaths I think I've seen ever at TI has been about 18 or 19, so I'm going to go with that again. Maybe we might see someone feeding a lot, but likely you're not going to end up seeing more than 20 deaths. I haven't seen it before, in my opinion. I can't remember again what the statistic was, but again, like, don't go too high with this one. It might even be 15 to 17. I might be aiming too high than what I am. And we look at highest GPM, very easily just one Alchemist game will throw this off completely, or even one Meepo game, high GPM heroes. So again, I'll be there during the week uploading more videos. Make sure you join the Discord. I'll be doing as well a fantasy prediction and giving you a guide for that. Last year with this I came in the top 10%, which gives you 16 battle point levels this year.